Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to this week's astrological report for April 29 through May 5 of 2025. I hope you're all doing well. This week, we do have some significant changes taking place up in the sky, including Venus finally leaving Pisces and re-entering Aries on the world point here for the third and final time of this cycle. So that will be exact by tomorrow on April 30th when Venus makes that change. And that's significant this week around relationships and financial matters. We're going to see some stuff moving forward, especially on the world stage, considering that is the world point. So nation states, negotiations, and other financial things that will be seen in the headlines most likely, especially considering that Venus is ruling this current lunar cycle in Taurus that we're building into. And then Venus will also be conjunct Neptune, which is pretty new here. That's exact on May 2nd. So Venus will still be in its retrograde shadow, but it's starting to build up momentum. And by next week, it'll be leaving that. And we have a lot moving forward already. Mercury is building up a lot of momentum. It's well past its shadow at this point. And Mars is finally past that opposition with Pluto and actually leaving its retrograde shadow this week and moving forward. So we're going to see a lot of stuff moving forward now in ways that we weren't able to move forward before. We also have Uranus making a trine and sextile to the nodes of fate. So there are some fateful dynamics in play this week. It could be more on the lines of unexpected fate playing out, which just means it could have a long-term effect on the future for good or bad, whatever plays out. It can have a little bit more of a excitability or surprises, things that were unexpected. I'll talk about that as I go through the daily chart. And then, of course, Pluto. Pluto's been slowing down for a while. It's stationing retrograde finally here in Aquarius. That's going to be exact on May 4. That's also a challenging day as the moon is square the sun for the first quarter moon, the crisis and action point. But everything about Pluto is definitely amplified this week. It's been amplified. It's going to continue to be amplified. It's also indicating there's a lot of transformation in the air and a lot of power, control, and intensity, especially in politics and in group and friend dynamics, community dynamics, and all of that kind of stuff. Science and technology could be going through some sort of headline with transformation as well this week, potentially, and into next week. And then looks like that's going to be on May 4th, if I missed saying that. And then on May 5, next Monday, Mercury is sextile Jupiter, which is a pretty positive aspect. Oh yeah, Jupiter is also getting ready to move forward out of its retrograde shadow as well into new territory. So there's a sense that a lot is moving forward at this point this week and kind of culminating with the full moon in a week and a half or another week from now, by the end of this week. So the moon is waxing forward from that Taurus cycle. The moon's waxing all through Gemini. Next couple days, the moon will be waxing through Cancer. And then the moon will ingress Leo and meet up with Mars. Well, first oppose Pluto and then meet up with Mars in Leo. That's going to be pretty passionate considering Mars is building up that momentum now. And that's going to be on May 3rd. The moon will also be waxing through Virgo by the end of this report week. And then next week's report will be the full moon in Scorpio. All right, so those are the main aspects. Of course, you can find them written out in the description for you below with timestamps. So I'm just going to get started here and start going through the chart day by day, starting here on Tuesday, April 29. Nothing but easy aspects today, although the first three aspects were early morning hours. And so that kind of set the tone, including the moon in Gemini sextile this Mars. It has a more flowing, optimistic vibe, especially considering that the moon is applying towards Jupiter. That'll be exact by tomorrow, but it's still getting pretty close to Jupiter. So, with the moon in Gemini, generally people want to be more lighthearted. People are generally more curious, kind of multitasking. You can be all over the place. There could be a need for information, communications, short trips, traveling, learning. It's just a lot of mental stimulation and potential variety of a lot of activity going on today, especially considering that the moon was sextile Mars. the planet of action. So that's still in play all day, but the only other aspect we have today will be exact by tonight, Moon sextile Mercury. That's going to be at 10:49 p.m. Let me move the chart forward, and we'll get that aspect here, about 14 degrees it looks like, by late tonight. So that's where emotions and feelings are connecting well with the mind, the communications, the thoughts, and the ideas. Mercury is ruling this Gemini, and considering that both Mercury and Jupiter are moving forward out of their shadows, again, even today and tomorrow and this whole week, there's a sense that things are really moving forward in new ways. But today we also have Venus here at this last critical degree of Pisces in exaltation. And so there can also be a sense of urgency to be dealing with financial matters today, and also relationship dynamics and other important things that this materialistic cycle that we're in currently is talking about. So I would definitely expect to see a lot of new things around world developments this week with different nation states and deals and negotiations and just big news coming out. But as far as tonight, the moon, Mercury, is a great time to be expressing oneself. It's easier to feel understood. It's easier to understand others and just communicate yourself if you need to do anything. Now, this is pretty late, of course. It's pretty late on the West Coast. So if you're on the East Coast or in Europe, it's going to be early morning hours for you. But even tonight should have a pretty good vibe just because, again, the moon is next to Jupiter. Now, with that said, when it comes to these lunar aspects, that's not everything, of course. We still have a lot of intensity in the background. There's still some pressure and some heaviness, of course, with Saturn and the North Node in Pisces. Still closing out a lot of things of the past. So I should make it clear that there's still kind of a combination of continuing to close out things of the past, close out these old cycles, these old eras, really, while we're moving forward in new ways. So there's both going on at the same time still. And then just the Saturn component. It's Pisces. It's picking up on heaviness. You know, Saturn and Pisces, it's more energetically heavy and sensitive. But it's also, for other people, about building and structuring new plans, new ideas, new systems from behind the scenes. That's not exactly visible as easily in this particular spot until Saturn, leaves Pisces, ingresses Aries later in May. Although even then, we're not going to be completely done with this old endings and restructuring and building new things, because Saturn and Neptune will re-enter Pisces at the end of the year, in the fall and the winter, to kind of finalize all this stuff. But we are getting close in the short term to be seeing some pretty big new developments within the next month based on Saturn changing signs here. All right, and then plus, even though there's some pretty good aspects today and some other points throughout the week, this is still the world point. This is still a lot of intensity. Technically, Mars is still opposite Pluto. That dynamic can be in place, but it's separating. Day by day, it should be getting weaker. But we can still see a lot of intensity in the world based on that. Plus the Pluto dynamic, of course, Pluto stationing is very intense and powerful. It really stirs up a lot of edginess as well, and intensity, and just these undercurrents that people could still be dealing with. So, you got to tap into the best of the best this week and understand these dynamics, and don't get wrapped up in any kind of a power struggle. Of course, as I was predicting last week with earthquakes and volcanoes, as far as I know, there's 3 big earthquakes last week, and as far as I know, at least 1 volcano. But I think that trend could continue as well, because again, I keep saying this, but I'm predicting something much bigger as far as Earth events this year and next year. And then weather events can still be pretty critical as well with all this type of stuff in different places around the world, including flooding events and other extreme weather. Mars and the Sun, they are in a wide orb square as well. So there's some intensity in the background, but overall today is flowing and pretty smooth despite all that. So that's what we have for Tuesday. Let's move this forward into Wednesday, April 30th, and we wake up with the moon next to Jupiter. So again, that's typically more of an optimistic feeling. This moon, Jupiter, is being ruled by Mercury, and they're still in a sextile with each other tomorrow as well. So it still comes back to a lot of this thinking about the self now. Again, Mercury's moving forward out of its shadow, and we can start thinking differently about our individuality, freedom, independence, what we want, and the mind. It's pretty sharp. It's quick with Mercury and Aries being ruled by Mars in Leo. So people can be sharp, quick with their expressions and their communications, even a little fiery and passionate and bold, even a little bit dramatic here with the way people communicate. And whatever way that's going, whether it's positive or negative, with the moon next to Jupiter for Wednesday, it can be overinflated. It can be really big, strong emotions, strong feelings for things, for good or bad. It can go either way, as I always say, with moon next to Jupiter. But typically it's more optimistic, but, it can definitely go either way. So moon, Jupiter also shows people's mental stimulation is even stronger tomorrow. And you got to be a little bit careful because sometimes if there is something going on, people can overreact or make a big deal about something for good or bad, and it might be out of balance a little bit. People's emotional responses or reactions and things like that. It's a great day for learning, teaching, great day for media, publishing, anything like that. I would definitely choose tomorrow to do it if you can. Now, it starts off pretty good, but this is also where Venus leaves Pisces. So first part of the morning, early morning hours, Venus is still at this critical degree, a sense of urgency for things to be changing here in relationships and financial matters. And then Venus re-enters Aries on the world point for the third and final time. And that is late morning, afternoon hours, basically, with that change of dynamics. Now that Venus has left Pisces, it's no longer exalted, and now Venus is in detriment, actually. So this is a place that Venus isn't very comfortable in, and now that Venus is in Aries, it's being ruled by Mars. So let me follow the trail here and see who's the main boss. So we have all these Aries planets. It leads right back to Mars. Mars in Leo is ruled by the Sun in Taurus. And the Sun in Taurus is ruled by this Venus. So it goes Venus, Mars, Sun. This just makes everything about relationships get a little more passionate as well. Now we have the lovers, Venus and Mars. They're both in fire signs now. So that's definitely more passionate, more bold in self-expression in relationships. And however, things are quicker, People have strong desires, strong passions for things, may not last. But also this is about now initiating, getting what we want, trying to get what we want in a newer way now. We still have to wait a little bit for some of these financial things to truly be entering new territory. But the fact that Venus is ruling this cycle of Taurus, this materialistic cycle that we're working with, I still think we're going to start to see some big developments. So again, on the world stage, this is the world point. And this is a part of new, everything new that comes into Aries this year. It is about, whatever the planet is, there's newness with that planet. So now Venus, new types of relationship dynamics, new deals, new financial stuff happening. It's just a matter of, we're going to have to test this out and see how markets respond to this changing dynamic. So keep in mind, things that happen when the market opens tomorrow, it could definitely be very different the second half of the day. But I'm not too concerned considering that it's being ruled by Mars and kind of this trine aspect, this wider orb trine with Mars, plus Neptune there. So we'll have to see how this new energy of Venus-Neptune is going to be playing out. But still, Venus doesn't really like to be in this sign because it's a little more challenging to express love and beauty and compromise when there's a battle going on, so in some cases it can show relationships can get a little more intense and edgy, but you also have to be careful of blind spots and creating stories or imagination that gets carried away within relationship dynamics because of Neptune here. This is going to be very different Venus-Neptune than Venus-Neptune in Pisces. That's a whole new thing that we haven't really seen yet. And so this is much more fiery. So again, it's just a little more challenging to get everything we want, perhaps. You still have to have some patience for the long-term story of what's being built behind the scenes. Because again, there is a lot of structuring and building for new things that aren't is visible yet with Saturn behind the scenes. In other cases, it's people stuck in their misery and grief and suffering in some cases. It's really easy to fall into, a deep hole with Saturn at the very last degrees of the zodiac in this emotional sign, this water sign that absorbs things very easily. So you have to check yourself if you're wrapped up into any difficulties. Don't let it get carried away. Things will be changing. So patience is necessary this week as well with everything we want. Again, there's a long-term value that's now really going to be moving forward. A lot of stuff has already been had in the background, and all those deals and new dynamics are going to start showing more and more. So I would expect to see some big stuff here in the media as far as world events with money and nation-state relationships. And things do seem to get a little more challenging as the day goes on Wednesday, right after the moon sextiles Chiron. So the moon passes that Jupiter in Gemini. Again, the moon is big all day long. So it can also be, like I say, a big appetite, so to speak. So check yourself and watch for overindulgences or just trying to be fulfilled by things. That, and make sure you can be, if you're not being fulfilled, understand that trying to keep going at it may not work. So kind of accept things as well, because now the moon is going to have to start running into some challenges for the next couple days. So moon sextile Chiron, that's a better feeling for the self and what we want and our individuality and our confidence and things like that as we're going through the day on Wednesday. But then the moon runs into a T-square with the nodes of fate. So again, everything starts to turn into a fateful day, especially the second half of the day, depending on where you live. So the moon T-squared the nodes. We're at a fateful crossroads for whatever's happening. We have decisions to make. We have things we're thinking about that are quite important that could have a long-term effect on the future for good or bad. But this is where we start to run into this pressure or this heaviness, seriousness from behind the scenes as the moon in Gemini squares Saturn. And that's going to be on Wednesday night. So most of the day is probably pretty decent, but for whatever reason on Wednesday night, things get heavier, more serious. There's a little bit of a restriction or a limitation in the air. And this moon in Gemini doesn't like that. The moon in Gemini wants to stay lighthearted, playful, but there might be important things that you have to take care of or deal with as well, depending on the time it is for you, depending on your location here on Wednesday night. So I would kind of free up your schedule if you can on Wednesday night. Kind of take it easy. Don't overdo things. Could also, just know that it could be a little bit heavy for whatever reason there. And fateful too. So there could be something important happening. Fateful, destined, having a long-term effect on the future for whatever that is, in the world especially. And if you have a personal planet here at 27 degrees, well, let's even say 27, 28, let's say 27, 28, 29, because from that point forward, you're going to have a Saturn transit if you do have a personal planet in one of those degrees in Gemini, in Virgo, Sagittarius, and Pisces. If you have a personal planet like Mercury, Venus, Sun, Moon, Mars, then you're under a rare Saturn transit and you have something serious that you need to deal with during the month of May. And the moon, the circumstances could be picking up on that for whatever reason starting here on Wednesday night. All right, so that's what we have for that. Moving this forward, we get to May 1st on Thursday. We have a change of dynamics because the moon ingresses Cancer right off the bat. So whatever happens on Wednesday night really sets that mood to be changing the overnight hours. And then when we wake up, the moon is in Cancer. So now the moon is very strong here. And it is one of these new cycles for the moon in Cancer where it doesn't have to oppose Pluto again, finally. We're going to get more and more used to that now that Pluto's gone out of Capricorn. So Cancer can start to feel a lot better in this new era as well, especially when Jupiter gets to your sign. Now, if you have the first few degrees of Cancer, you will have a little bit of this Neptune and Saturn you have to deal with in a very rare way. But again, you're going to get support and an ally when you get Jupiter into your sign coming up this summer, which is quite rare. So now that the moon is in Cancer on Thursday morning and for the next couple days, the mood, the feelings, it gets a lot more sensitive and the need for safety and security becomes strong. Generally, it's more inward as well. People are more concerned with home and family matters, generally speaking. I think in the world context, it's going to talk about immigration stuff, border stuff, and markets. This is also puts more emotional emphasis and just general circumstances within real estate matters for the next couple days, Thursday and Friday. So if you need to deal with anything about real estate or deal with property, home stuff, family stuff, this could be a day where a lot of people are engaging in that kind of stuff. Now, we do have, something new here because right as the moon comes into Cancer, it's squaring Venus on the world point and then squaring Neptune. So Cancer has to start getting used to this new dynamic of Neptune in Aries. It challenges the Cancerian vibes, because again, Cancer generally wants to be more safe, play it safe, not take a risk, not be too bold or daring and stuff. But there's this new world dream coming in, this new inspiration coming in for everybody with Neptune in Aries being ruled by Mars moving forward, being inspired to take action, take a risk, build a new dream for yourself. This new era is definitely much more about taking the initiative. We're leaving all of this behind the scenes, Pisces, being stuck in our own world, taking drugs and alcohol to escape from reality, being stuck in your own reality, whether that's from media or drugs or alcohol, whatever the case it's from. We're moving out of that. We're going to be really more proactive in this next phase. So even though it's Neptune, it's not the same Neptune as a Neptune in Pisces that keeps people a little more dreamy and romantic. Now, the fact that Venus is getting close to Neptune here, again, we'll kind of have to test this out since it's so new for us. It can soften Venus a little bit, but again, these are war signs, and again, action signs, passionate signs about moving forward and starting things, taking action. So again, the moon in Cancer has to adapt to that now, and that's what we're challenged with. Sometimes with the moon square Venus, people might not be feeling as satisfied. This could also affect the markets here based on second half of Wednesday, whatever happens, that could carry over potentially into Thursday. Luckily, though, by the time the markets open, I think the moon will be past the Venus-Neptune square. But still, there's some sort of emotional challenge, sensitivity as the moon squares Neptune and Venus. It could also, again, amplify the need for something as well. But is it easy to get, or is it satisfying in that moment? If not, then just realize these dynamics and know that it will be passing as time goes on. So try not to overdo anything with love or relationship in the overnight hours of Wednesday into Thursday morning. Don't expect too much out of it. And just also pay attention to what you want and what you need if anything's coming up. Because you can take action to get it. It's just a matter of time, being patient, like I said. You still got to be patient because of this Saturn, basically, that shows that not everything is ready. Plus, Venus is still in the shadow. But luckily, we got this Mars starting to build up momentum. So we're so close to seeing a lot of new things. All right, so then the moon is in conjunct to Pluto. So that's where, again, circumstances, the mood, it's picking up on this intense dynamic of Pluto stationing retrograde. So adjusting to friendships or group and your community stuff versus your emotional needs, which may be more inward, more private, more guarded, protective, wanting to be in your own safe place versus out in community and stuff like that. Or it could also be, around your home or property, having to adjust to some sort of intensity in the neighborhood or something like that with community stuff. And then this is where Uranus is making the trine and sextile to the nodes of fate here, exact on May 1st. And that is talking about, again, there could be surprises or unexpected dynamics that somehow have a long-term effect on the future for good or bad. There could be excitement in the air, revolutionary vibes in the air that are fateful and destined, and sometimes people ask me what that means. What does fateful mean? It means whatever is happening, it's going to affect the future in a significant way. But this is a trine and sextile, so things are more flowing. It doesn't feel like it's as critical in this spot. It's also Taurus, talking about materialistic changes, that we are at the tail end of. We've been working on these changes for years. So again, this is likely could affect markets and of different types. With the moon in Cancer, it could also be housing market stuff here, bank stuff going on that's karmic this week or things like that. If you have any planets at 26.5, 27 degrees, then you're under this Uranus transit, but you've kind of already been under that for a year already, and this will be the final conjunction. So if you have a personal planet right there where Uranus is, you're also connected to fateful things because the nodes of fate are connected to your planet. But just expect some volatility or unexpected dynamics here on May 1st. And then we have the moon aligning nicely with the sun in the sextile from Cancer to Taurus. And that's going to be Thursday night. So that's where there's generally more cooperation. Things tend to be more flowing and smooth. There's also value, money, resources connected to property, family, home type of stuff. So again, if you need to do anything about property, this is a great time to be doing it on Thursday and Friday. All right, let's move this forward here, and we get to Friday, May 2nd. Start off with the moon still halfway through Cancer, building through that sign, still talking about emotions, feelings, needs, home and family stuff, property, immigration, being more guarded and protective, not as bold and daring in this particular moon phase, even though there's so much Aries going on here, all ruled by this Mars in Leo. So since I didn't mention it, Mars in Leo, get used to this because it's going to be here for a little bit longer. And it's more about people want to be more dramatic and bold with their action and with their self-expression. And that could also be, this could also be a need for some people want to have fun, independence, doing what they want to do quickly. So stuff like that. It's also going to stir up more creativity as well. So you can really tap into your creativity. Your instincts should be very powerful and bold. It's just that the moon in Cancer doesn't really vibe with all that. It's much more inward and emotional and sensitive still on Friday. This is where the moon is squaring Mercury for the first aspect on Friday. So this is where we do run into a challenge between, again, the way we're expressing ourselves, our feelings, our needs, versus the way we're thinking. Again, Mercury here is starting to build up some good momentum. It's moving pretty quick. It's not at its full speed, but it's sharp. It's quick. So people can speak in a little more of a sharper way, in a quicker way, and even an impulsive type of way. That might not come across well for this Cancerian moon that could be taking things a little more sensitively. Or, again, just our thoughts, our ideas about certain things could challenge us in our mood and what we want in that moment on Friday morning. First thing in the morning kind of sets the tone. And then we have this Venus conjunct Neptune as well. That's going to be a big part of the day because that's more of a rare dynamic than just the moon here. So again, this Venus-Neptune, it's something very new that we're going to be getting used to over and over again for the next 14 years, every time Venus goes through Aries. So it's much more passionate and inspiring. I don't think it's necessarily negative because, again, Venus and Neptune are in great harmony with its ruler Mars in this really passionate, fun, bold sign of Leo. But it's dreamy still. It's dreaming about something. You have to be, cautious of impulsiveness in those kind of a ways. If you're trying to get something, there's a little bit of a blind spot here you have to be careful of. Not everything is clear around money dynamics and relationship and love stuff. So pay attention to what's being stimulated for you if anything's stirring up in a relationship on Friday. But it's also for the long term. This is talking about much bigger stuff, of course, the fact that Venus has been retrograde through this spot already. So things are finalizing in ways that we've already been processing about our values, relationships, money, and things like that. But again, Venus is not able to give us everything we want in this position. I've been telling you guys this for a while. There'll be a time that's very obvious when we can get all the good stuff. And when that time comes, it'll be Venus in Taurus, sextile Jupiter in Cancer. That's going to be a sweet alignment. And then eventually Venus will meet up with Jupiter in Cancer in August. So things are in the future around what we want. It's just hard to get it all right now. And that's the challenge with this position because we want everything right now. But don't get me wrong. Again, you're going to see a lot of changes. You're going to see some stuff that is moving forward that you weren't even able to get, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, a month ago. So there's some stuff, it's just not totally there yet. So yeah, Venus, Neptune, it can be romantic, but in a whole different type of way. Not necessarily a compassionate way where it's more like accepting people. Venus is so good in Pisces because it's much more accepting and loving to others, compromising, but Venus is having a hard time offering up all those treats in this position. Now, we could say maybe there's a little bit of it in this moment because Neptune can have a slight, correspondence to Pisces a little bit, but I just wouldn't get carried away with thinking it's going to be overly sweet or romantic in this sign. But there's still something. There's still a little bit of a softer vibe, perhaps. And if it's not softer, then it's really acting on this dream and this instinct for something of pleasure quickly. So that'll be interesting. We'll have to take a look at what's playing out on that day. I would definitely pay close attention to the markets on that day so we can, because again, Venus will be coming through here year after year, and we have to start noting what happens in this new dynamic so that when it comes around again, we know what to expect in this new way. But it's probably going to be super passionate. It could still be romantic in a way of thinking about the self and what the self wants more than what the partner wants, if that makes sense. All right, so now we also have the moon squaring Chiron, so some emotional sensitivities and insecurities or vulnerabilities could be showing or at least being felt by certain people, especially if you have a personal planet around 24 degrees of one of the cardinal signs, so Aries, Cancer, Libra, or Capricorn. And if you do have a personal planet there, then you're under a rare Chiron transit and you need to deal with your personal wounds or healing and things like that for this whole year of 2025. And then the moon aligns with the nodes of fate. So things turn fateful and destined again. But again, it's more flowing. It's not as necessarily critical, but there could still be some critical stuff here because of the Chiron component of it all. Plus the moon still squaring Mercury. But then the moon forms a sextile with Uranus, which is helpful to be more comfortable with change. So this is a great time on Friday, late Friday night. It's early morning for other people on Saturday morning, but it's a great time to be creating changes, again, in property, home, family stuff, financial stuff. Be more open. We're more comfortable with the possibility of something different, something new, and all of that. And that's what we have for Friday. So as far as Friday night goes, probably the mood isn't the best for like a party or something. Now, if you have one scheduled or, some social event on Friday night, it'll probably be okay. Well, you should be cautious all week long because of Pluto stationing. It's still very powerful within group and community dynamics. So keep that in mind all week long in that background vibe. All right, so then we get to Saturday, May 3. And the moon is at the last degrees of Cancer in the early morning hours of Saturday before it changes signs. First aspect of the day is the moon trine Saturn. So we can start to emotionally stabilize a lot of this Cancerian stuff of home, family, emotions, needs, comfort level stuff that we were going through Thursday and Friday. Now it starts to stabilize, and whatever happens will now change the mood as the moon will leave Cancer and ingress Leo. Now, this is definitely a big change once we get to Saturday morning. When we wake up on Saturday morning, the moon will already be in Leo, right next to Mars and trine Neptune and Venus. So it's all about fire now. It's hot, fiery, passionate, bold, instinctive, and really about taking action to get what we want and what we need. I think it can stir up romantic stuff here. It's just more, it's not on that it's just doing things quicker. So also you can have fun, impulsively, come up with an idea, invite someone to some recreational thing would be a great thing here on Saturday. But it is Mars. Moon is next to Mars. So even though there's outlets and alignments for all this taking place, it can still be aggressive, and there can still be some conflict here because the moon is also picking up on that Pluto, which is literally about to station perfectly. But it is still more about fun, recreational things. It really stirs up much more creativity and drama in the air. And this is usually a social dynamic in some way with the opposition of Aquarius and Leo. So this can be like protests or large groups of people coming together for some reason and just being bold and fiery and passionate with their self-expression. But still be cautious, because people can be quite aggressive with this type of dynamic. But at least there's a way to channel it into our individuality or freedom and independence, doing what we want to do. But things are going to probably get hot, I would imagine. Potentially. I mean, of course, depending on where you live, and not literally necessarily, but hot on multiple levels here. So there is like a new dynamic, I believe, about relationships at this point that want to have fun, that want to be adventurous and do something new within a relationship dynamic at this point. This can stir up stuff with children as well. Hopefully nothing negative, but you never know with this type of dynamic, moon next to Mars. Women can also get much more passionate, especially by Saturday here with both Venus and the moon in fire signs wrapped around Mars. Neptune is the only thing here that may mellow it out a little bit or soften it a little bit, but I wouldn't guarantee that being in these signs. All right, so now, again, the moon, though, it's connecting well with that Neptune and that Venus. So this is a lot easier to actually get what we want in the short term. This isn't the longer term stuff necessarily. This is, instant stuff or quicker gratification here, but it is easier to feel more satisfied in either a relationship or some sort of pleasure or event, something like that. But again, I just hope that it doesn't turn out to be a violent day because of this Pluto involved. Because that's the next aspect, is the moon opposing Pluto. So it starts off pretty good, first thing in the morning, and then by the time we get to the afternoon is when the true intensity kicks in with moon opposite Pluto. So emotional drama, emotional tension with the groups and the friends and the community. And it's likely to show something in some areas of the world that's going to get a headline, most likely. That's a little more conflict-based, probably. But I would say for the majority of people, this can still be a pretty good day if you're, again, doing something with recreation or outdoors or events and social events. I think generally it should be okay. There's bound to be a couple events that could get critical, though, around the world. And just don't piss off, women this weekend, because they're going to have this stronger emotional reaction that could surprise you. Transformation, we could be seeing some form of transformation on Saturday as well. Some big new events showing in personal lives as well, and really starting to see things move forward into this new territory now that Mars is free of its shadow and building up momentum. So the weekend is definitely transformative and powerful. But then it's all about Moon Mars for the rest of the day on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, and then by 7 roughly, the moon is starting to clear from this strong dynamic. So by the time we get to Saturday night, it's still Moon Mars all day long, even on Saturday night. And now that the moon is in Leo, it's being ruled by the sun being ruled by Venus, Venus being ruled by Mars. So continues this Aries, Taurus, and Leo connection. So the Aries is about the self, what we want, our individuality, our freedom, our independence. The Taurus side is about money, materialistic things of life, the 5 senses of pleasure that we want quickly in this phase. And the moon next to Mars can be a big heart, but next to Mars, it's a little more aggressive or pushy in a way. Also, issues of pride come in this weekend. So be careful of ego and pride dynamics that could get the better of you. So stick with the big heart side of it all and big creativity, big fun, big action. Be more in the positive side of it all. Mercury's getting close to Chiron here. It's not perfect yet, but the mind is starting to look at where we have some vulnerabilities as well, insecurities in some ways, as time goes on here. We have to overcome that, which it is easy to overcome that with these types of dynamics. All right, so that's Saturday. Check my time here. I'm short on time. I barely got the time to do this, but I definitely wanted to get it out for you guys since there's a lot of important things happening. Okay, so let's get to Sunday. Sunday, May 4, the moon is still in Leo, and now it's getting past those strong dynamics. So I think Sunday could probably be a little better. Oh, actually, the moon is running into the square with the sun, and then Pluto's officially stationing. So can't guarantee Sunday will be easy, because typically with the moon square the sun, the first quarter moon, it's a crisis and action point, how to move things forward. It comes back to the Taurus new moon a week ago from this point. Did you set any intentions for this cycle? Well, now we're running into those issues of how to make things happen, how to move forward in these bigger ways. That's all ready to happen here. But not everything is cooperative. Not everything is flowing. There could be some restrictions, some limitations, some emotional issues depending on the person. But they're more dramatic with the Leo moon in this square. It's also like how people are emotionally feeling is not where the focus is. The focus is on materialistic life and stability and comfort and values that are very important. But Taurus likes to keep the peace. Taurus likes to make things nice for everybody, keep beautiful mood environment. And yet the moon here is next to Mars, and kind of more bold and dramatic, can challenge some of the peace or stability, in this moment here. And it doesn't have to be a big deal necessarily, especially on individual levels. It could just be a moment of a mood issue, like, maybe there's something that you need to do and you don't feel like it. So it's not going to last. It's only a few hours, but at the same time, with Pluto stationing retrograde exactly on Sunday, it's one of the most powerful days. Not necessarily, like I said, Pluto isn't a one-day transit. Even though it's exact here on Sunday, it's all week long. It could happen any day of the week. Again, volcanoes, earthquakes. I still feel like those are strong potentials, even though some pressure was relieved in this last week. There's still some intensity that could show. And especially, again, with community and groups and friendships and things like that. And out on the streets, you have to be careful of anything like that with groups of people and the more dramatic side of life. But also transformation is playing out this week, and 100% you're going to see a lot of change and transformation taking place in different ways. All right, but the moon here, it still shows that people want to have fun. It could still be a day of recreation or events, social events. Just be mindful of these background vibes. Also pay attention to your surroundings all week long. We did see that terrorist attack. Well, I don't know if it was a terrorist attack, but that accident in Canada, people killed. We also saw that explosion. That explosion in Iran, that was definitely the Mars opposite Pluto as well. So as the moon goes through here this weekend, other events kind of like that could also happen. I don't think it's as powerful though, but you never know because it's still within orb. All right, and once moon gets past this challenge with the sun, then the moon is trine Mercury and trine Jupiter. No, sextile Jupiter and trine Mercury. That's going to be on Sunday night. This is also now Jupiter's in new territory finally, because it went retrograde at 21 degrees last October. Now it's finally at 22 degrees. So we're also seeing growth and expansion in new ways, especially in your Gemini area of life. But the moon is connecting it to it from Leo, so this can be a lot better here on Sunday night. It's also a minor grand trine with the moon trine Mercury, and Mercury building that sextile to Jupiter. So this is typically much more of a optimistic mood, and thoughts and feelings, the heart and the mind are now aligned in a much better way. The only downside to all of this is Chiron involved in all of it. So we still have to get past our own insecurities, if it applies, not everybody, but for those that it does, get past insecurities and vulnerabilities for whatever's coming up around this time. And then, if you are able to get past it, if you're brave, if you're courageous, if you take a risk, then that can go a long way in helping people heal if there's any wounds or insecurities about action, about taking a risk in some way. Maybe people are afraid to take a risk or something like that. Well, if you do, there can be good results, and it can help you feel better about yourself. So this is also a great day to communicate, to get your point across, your feelings, the way you're thinking and feeling. They're more in alignment. And with Jupiter at the apex here, there can be a sense of optimistic expansion for whatever is in the air going on Sunday night. But I would say it's a pretty decent night to socialize as well. All right, so that's May 4 on Sunday, and then we get to Monday on May 5. The moon is at the last degrees of Leo, trying that Chiron first thing in the morning, overnight hours. Again, helping people feel good about their action that day. If you we're involved in any action. Looks like we have a lot of inconjunctions here on Monday. So a lot of adjustments have to take place. One square, a lot of some irritations, but we do have at least this nice aspect of, again, Jupiter and Mercury connecting in a better way. The mind, the thoughts, the ideas, they're expanding into new territory now. It's also a great day to teach and learn. Short trips, traveling, hopefully is okay. Let's see here. Keep in mind, Jupiter is still debilitated in Gemini. It's still not the best place, but it does come back to Mercury right next to Chiron. I think traveling is going to be an issue no matter where Mercury is at this point. I think we're in a long phase now of traveling issues that are just more common than just a Mercury issue because of Pluto. Pluto does rule the air travel especially. That's a little concerning with Pluto stationing opposite all this. But so be cautious with traveling. Give yourself lots of time and just plan accordingly. But overall, generally speaking, this is great for your thoughts, your ideas, and communications with people, networking, again, publishing, writing, speaking, any kind of things like that would be a pretty good day, but you would still have to make a lot of adjustments and kind of be all over the place a little bit because of the moon making so many aspects. So moon in conjunct to the north node, having to adjust to these behind the scenes things that are either ending or being built. It can go either way, and it can be both at the same time. Some things that you're closing out while you're starting new things. But all this behind the scenes stuff, it's not as visible. And so we have to adjust to things for our future. But the moon in Leo is not really on board with that heavy, serious stuff behind the scenes. This is more outward and more fun. So again, having to adjust to serious things and commitments or responsibilities despite what you want to be doing here. And then the moon is also square that Uranus, so there can be volatility here on Monday morning, first thing in the morning. It's pretty early, so it's not going to last all day. In fact, the moon will be changing signs later on in the day, but definitely early morning hours on the West Coast, afternoon if you're in other places. There could be some volatility, some unpredictability, some surprises, some disruptions, some drama. So keep that in mind for the market on Monday morning. It may not be the same. If the market is reacting a certain way when it opens on Monday morning, it could be very different as the day goes on. It could change course or something as the day goes on, because then the moon is also in conjunct to that Saturn, again, having to make adjustments to all that heavy stuff from behind the scenes. But then the moon, then Mercury is sextile Jupiter from 22 to 22. That's exactly on Trump's sun, by the way. So Mercury is also aligning with Trump. So there's something important probably next Monday. Well, probably always with Trump in the media and the news, but you're probably seeing something significant here by next week for Trump and what's going on with him. And then also Venus is starting to build up that sextile with Pluto. That's going to be the following day for next week's report. But the mind is continuing to be more optimistic, to be expanding its wisdom, its knowledge, and ideas and thoughts, with that going on. So again, it's still a great day to be publishing, writing, speaking, communicating yourself, networking, and all that kind of stuff. All the way. I would even say Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's great for all that kind of stuff. But then the moon will leave Leo, and that's going to be a big mood change as the moon will ingress Virgo for the second half of Monday. So now that the moon is in Virgo, it's being ruled by this Mercury, which is connecting to Jupiter. So it could start off pretty good, actually. Plus, now the moon is in Virgo, an earth sign, and the sun is in Taurus, an earth sign. So now we're more grounded, we're more practical. However, Virgo is going through eclipses, and so this is still like eclipse territory. And it's still about looking at your work and how you work, changing up work routines. But also, this is the health sign now. For the next 2.5 days, it's really showing that this is another round of working on health and letting go of old patterns, old habits, things that need to change with how we take care of the self on a daily basis. That's not going to be instant. This is a process we'll be going through for the rest of 2025 and the first half of 2026 before it's all complete. Plus, more eclipses are coming for Virgo here in the fall. So there's still a lot more changes to come around everything to do with health. Health is definitely changing for the better, because now we don't have the fog. We don't have this Neptune in these health signs. That now that we're coming out of that, we're starting to see health in a new way. We're starting to be more practical, more logical about health, more grounded. But it's still, if it's not about health, then it's about work and getting down to the details, purging, purifying things, getting rid of things, as the moon will be approaching that south node by next week. So it's still more of a grounded, practical mood that starts to come in on Monday, second half of Monday. But then the moon is in conjunct to Neptune and Venus and Pluto, kind of all at the same time. In fact, with a finger of God aspect by Monday evening, Monday night. So it's fateful, it's karmic, whatever's happening. So if you have a personal planet, roughly, I like to keep these orbs super tight with these finger of gods or these inconjunctions. So basically, if you have a planet at 3, maybe 4 degrees, but if you have a planet at 3 degrees of Virgo, then this is perfectly aligned with that planet in your chart, and you could be wrapped up in something fateful and karmic. Now, we don't always see necessarily the results instantly, so whatever happens on Monday night could show these fateful, destined, karmic things play out as time goes on. Or it could show even in the moment. You just never know. But if you don't see anything, it doesn't mean that there isn't something that's shaping the future that's out of our control in some way. So we have to adjust to the group, the community, the intensity, the transformations, politics, and the friendships and all that when we need to be focused on the practical work, service, or health life, or dealing with, things that we're purging and getting rid of. We might have distractions in some way with Neptune and Venus, personal desires, things we want to be doing, we'd rather be doing than the work over here in Virgo. But there's also a transformation that's beginning to happen for relationships and money stuff here by next week, as that Venus will connect to Pluto. And that's pretty much the last aspect of this report week until Tuesday. Let me just take a quick look for next Tuesday. I'll be back, hopefully. You never know, but that's the plan. And the moon will align nice with the sun next Tuesday as the moon is waxing forward through the rest of Virgo. So Tuesday will continue to be all those Virgo vibes of work, service, and health and changes that are necessary. And then next week, the moon will ingress Libra and then reach fullness in Scorpio. So I will be back to talk about that. I hope this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take good care.